IFAB, which sets the rules of football, has made significant changes starting from the 2025-2026 season. An announcement was made following today's meeting. I had already published a podcast about this, and which rules were accepted, which were not. We will discuss it in detail. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. I will be reading and translating directly from IFAB's source, that is, their own statements. Then we will make our comments and discuss it. While you press the like button, I will start. It starts with IFAB, the International Football Association Board, approving a series of changes to the rules of the game for the 25-26 season. Our article. The experiments regarding goalkeepers holding the ball longer than necessary have shown largely positive effects. After it was determined, they unanimously decided to make a change to Rule 12.2, which is the indirect free kick rule. With the change made, if the goalkeeper holds the ball for more than 8 seconds, the referee will show his hand and start counting down from 5. And as a result, if the goalkeeper does not release the ball within 8 seconds, there is the existing 6-second rule. I will get to that as well. Instead of an indirect free kick, a corner kick will be awarded. Now we need to discuss this, because normally, as you know, this is referred to as the 6-second rule, and it is almost never enforced anywhere in the world. And recently we saw it being enforced only in a match of Galatasaray in the Super League. After holding the ball for about 18 and 20 seconds, the referee awarded a direct free kick. Under normal conditions, it's the 6-second rule. I think it would speed up the game significantly. It was an excellent rule if enforced. However, unfortunately, over time, it started not being enforced at all. Therefore, in this change made to increase its applicability, here's what happens. This rule extends to 8 seconds, and within those 8 seconds, the referee waits for 3 seconds. That is, after the player takes the ball, holds it, stands up, etc. If they are still wasting time after that, the referee starts counting down from 5. This means the referee is essentially saying, look, I'm going to blow the whistle here. I'm going to call it, this is considered a foul action here. I'm going to call the foul. Therefore, it means to get rid of it as soon as possible. So, after counting 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, if the ball is still in the goalkeeper's hands and hasn't been released, then the ball will be turned over to the opponent. The important change here is this. Normally, it would be an indirect free kick. Naturally, since the goalkeeper is standing with the ball inside the penalty area, it would be an indirect free kick from inside the penalty area. This provided quite an advantage to the opponent. Instead, it will be considered as if the ball was deflected for a corner. The goalkeeper, therefore, it will result in a corner. This could increase the number of corners for those who bet, of course. But I think once it starts being implemented, goalkeepers will start the game more quickly. And in this sense, it's a positive development. I think it's an excellent rule, but what do you think? You can write it below. Apart from this, there is a rule regarding team captains. In Rule 310, guidelines have been added for matches that want to apply the principle of allowing only the captain to approach the referee in certain situations. This practice was successfully implemented in many matches last year. As you already know, this has been in effect since the European Championship. Now, only captains can come and talk to the referee. They have decided that strong cooperation and communication between captains and referees, who often face verbal or physical objections, can enhance the core values of the game. They have determined that this can increase the level of fairness and mutual respect. Therefore, only captains will be given the right to speak, and when other players approach, a yellow card has already started to be shown. This will also be implemented. There was an incident like this in the European Championship. If the captain is the goalkeeper, a teammate is chosen as the representative on the field. In other words, they become the on-field captain and can approach the referee because, as you know, goalkeepers are prohibited from leaving the penalty area. It would actually be good if there was a regulation regarding this. It's a situation that complicates things a bit. However, from this point on, we can say that captains will be more prominent in making objections. Again, I don't think it's illogical, because when 500 people gather around the referee's attention gets distracted, the game starts to be disrupted. Everyone ends up getting a yellow card. The best solution would be for one person to make objections on behalf of everyone. Rather than an objection doesn't really change anything. In none of the matches I've watched an objection to the referee, yes, you're right, he didn't say and change his mind. So you can think of it more as allowing the referee to explain the situation there. Apart from this, there is the 8.2 drop ball rule. If at the moment the game stops, the ball is outside the penalty area, the ball's pass. If the referee can clearly determine who has possession, the ball will be given to that team. Otherwise, it will be given to the team that last touched the ball. Subsequently, the drop ball will continue at the place where the ball was last played. This is more about the following. When the ball hits the referee, a drop ball occurs, or when there is an injury, the referee can suddenly stop the game and start with a jump ball. This rule is related to that. It's not very important. There is a rule change regarding the moment the ball is in play in 9.2. If a team official, a substitute player, a player who has left the game, a player who has been expelled, or a player who is temporarily off the field, touches the ball as it leaves the playing area, and this constitutes an unfair interference. If there is no intent without a disciplinary penalty, An indirect free kick will be awarded in favor of the opposing team. We have seen an example of this very recently. Sometimes coaches can intervene excitedly while the ball is still on the line before it goes out. It could be the coach, a player on the side, or a substitute player. Thinking the ball will go out, they can intervene before it actually does. We saw this from Burak Yilmaz. If I remember correctly, it was in recent times, and it was quite criticized. Similarly, I remember such an incident in the Super League a few years ago. However, I don't know which teams were involved, so I won't make up a lie. But regarding this, a yellow card and sometimes even a red card could be issued if the coaches intervened. That has been prevented as well. I mean, unless it's done deliberately to stop a mistake, the referee will read the intention a bit there, and if it's something done unintentionally, then no penalty will be given. An indirect free kick will be awarded to the other side. Apart from that, there is a change in the VAR protocol. Matches can now allow the referee to make an announcement after a VAR review or a lengthy VAR check. This is something like this. Leagues or competitions will now decide on this. When we say competition, we mean league and cup tournaments. These are what it refers to. It was tried in a few places, as you know. They did it in the MLS and such. After the referee's VAR review, the referee explains to the entire stadium, and actually to those watching on TV, what happened and on what basis the decision was made. He says, it hit the player's thing, so it hit his hand, and that's why I'm awarding a penalty. I'm just saying, they have now officially added this to the VAR protocol. Therefore, this rule is something that will increase transparency. The referee is heavily criticized. I mean, it's not just in Turkey, it's everywhere in the world. Especially, they are quite criticized. And I think explaining the decisions to the stands is a positive thing. Of course, it will cause a bit of a delay each time because they will go, come back, and then explain, which might take an extra 10-15 seconds from the match. But I see it as a positive. I hope so. This transparency might reduce the reactions a bit. You can write what you think below. Additionally, an extra practical rule has been added regarding referees. Now, in matches with VAR, since it can already be determined whether a penalty is a goal, the assistant referees, normally they would wait on the line and decide by looking at the line to see if it was a goal. However, since VAR can already make this decision, they will be waiting on the outer line of the penalty area. This means that they will be able to better detect whether there is an offside afterwards. Assistant referees, such a change has been introduced. Of course, let me say that these rules will be released along with the newly published game rules. It will come into effect after July 1st, 2025. In fact, tournaments that wish to, meaning those that have started during that period, can implement this. Therefore, in the FIFA Club World Cup starting on June 14th, 2025, all these rules will have come into effect. Of course, I will say the selected ones, some are not mandatory, as you know. As I mentioned earlier, and let me remind you again, I will also be going to the FIFA Club World Cup in the summer. I will share vlogs from there. Maybe we'll shoot shorts in real time, open live streams. So don't forget to follow the main channel. Look, there are still friends here waiting for the offside rule. I will get to that as well, because so far we haven't seen anything about offside. Additionally, referees will be allowed to wear body cameras in a limited number of high-level matches for training and development purposes. Thus, IFAB has also supported FIFA in testing referees. In fact, the referee camera will also be used live during matches in the FIFA Club World Cup. So those who watch Formula 1 will know it has come to something called the pilot camera. There is a helmet camera. We can even see how they turn their heads inside the helmet for the race, even their field of view. Here, we will be able to see how referees view fouls and so on from their perspective. I think it's an amazing thing. And again, when players come to protest, they won't be able to swear so easily. This is something that somewhat kills the spirit of the game. I mean, no matter what, in football, harsh words are spoken. As the tension rises, I hope they do it in a way that we won't hear the words coming from the players' mouths. Otherwise, there might be problems. In parallel with what I just said, at the local level in England, they have observed a positive impact on player behavior after referees started wearing body cameras. Because I guess the authority there is Big Brother is watching. US talk, Big Brother is watching us. They are a bit intimidated by the talk and the authority. Players are making more calm criticism, so to speak, regarding the positions. Apart from that, the topic you are curious about is to encourage attacking football and increase goal opportunities. They decided to designate matches to experiment with new offside rules known as the Wenger rule. Therefore, this newly mentioned offside rule will not be in every tournament at the moment. So, for those who don't know what this newly mentioned offside rule is, let's explain it again. The player needs to completely separate from the last defender. The attacking player needs to completely separate from the last defender for it to be considered offside. This, of course, provides a significant advantage to the attacker regarding offside. However, this will not be officially implemented yet. It will be in certain matches. FIFA will test this in some tournaments. They will probably test it in youth tournaments, maybe in women's tournaments. I don't think it will be in the Club World Cup. I assume they will explain it then as well. I think it's beneficial to open this topic for discussion. What do you think regarding the separation in the offside rule? There is a group claiming that this will prevent millimetric offsides. In fact, similar comments were made on the podcast I did. However, I do not agree with this, because no matter what, this time we'll be discussing how far from the defender. We'll be debating whether it's 5 centimeters or 10 centimeters. Again, millimetric offsides will be examined there. In the end, there will be a line drawn, and it could be offside by very close margins. However, a comment from a friend that struck me as odd came in. Truly an eye-opening comment, thank you. Mert Guller said that the new offside rule will encourage setting up the defense further back rather than playing more offensively. Because one of the purposes of setting up the defense forward is to use the offside tactic in counterattacks, with the new offside rule, the offside tactic will become more impossible. I think for these reasons, teams will tend to defend the penalty area except for the area we call the 6-yard box, he said. A very logical perspective. There were even ideas about removing the offside rule. So it resembles exactly that. Actually, you can think of it as a more radical version of that. If you remove the offside rule, let me say this. If you remove the offside rule, especially weaker teams will get buried inside the penalty area. And they will defend deep to avoid being caught behind the defense, meaning to prevent being offside. Before the offside rule, football was already played like this. Therefore, in terms of offside, it means separating the attacking player from the defending player. Yes, at first it may seem more offensive. However, since it will prevent both strong and weak teams from using the offside tactic, it means they will set up their defensive lines further back. And when you set up the defensive line further back, the length of the game will expand. Of course, the expansion of the game's length also means more. It will mean counter, attack, and transition play. But in this transition play, what we call counter-attack, it will be useless when the opposing team plays defensively. Therefore, I think it will be abandoned after a 1 to 2 year trial period. Honestly, it's a somewhat complicated topic. There will be many positive and negative aspects. It needs to be thoroughly tested before making a judgment. At the same time, this will definitely change the dynamics of the game. For example, we say that strikers are finished, right? Strikers will be completely finished with this, because here it's entirely like Osimhen. Having very fast players like Mbappe, Kape, or Dembele at the front line could become more advantageous in the initial stage, because what will happen here? Since players are used to the offside tactic mentally, until they get used to this, players who run behind the defense will have an advantage. There's a joke that Burak Yilmaz will return to football. It will be a huge advantage for players who run behind the defense. However, over time, the defensive players will pull back, because they will start to be unable to execute the offside tactic and will pull back further. In this situation, there will be a need to return to classic center forwards inside the box. I think in the first 2 to 3 year period, even very athletic center forwards and attackers will stand out, and then once again, tall ones. I predict that the game might return to a system with center forwards like those we saw in old-style English football. This is truly a great topic that needs to be discussed. In my opinion, there was also a challenge system for VAR. I had previously recorded a podcast about this alone. I also mentioned it in the newly published rules-changing topic. I said this would be valid for these subcategories. In fact, they made an explanation like this. FIFA, also shared the details of the trial with IFAB regarding the system called Football Video Support, which requires a small number of cameras and was successfully tested in various FIFA tournaments in 2024. Based on the positive results obtained so far, it was decided to expand the trials to more tournaments. Here, the technical teams are given one challenge right each, and if the referee hasn't gone to VAR or thinks there is another situation, the head coaches, or rather the technical team, can make a challenge. They can suggest a review just like in volleyball or basketball. However, this is valid for matches that require a small number of cameras. In other words, in a match filmed with 5 to 6 cameras. For example, this will be valid in a third league match. The reason for this is as follows. Since there is no VAR there when something very absurd happens, head coaches have the right to object, and there won't be an extra recording apart from the match broadcast. There won't be anything like a VR system there. They will try to watch the position from the available angles by rewinding the match recording. There is such a possibility. Of course, how many challenges will there be? It is being discussed that there might be 1 or 2. I don't know how it will be. However, if this comes to professional top-level football, what I always say is this. We might see referees in technical teams in the future, because I think there might be various processes involving consulting referees about when to make a challenge to ensure experienced referees make challenges at the right time. The thing I see as negative here is something that will slow down the game a lot, because I think coaches might misuse this to constantly stop the game, perhaps to give tactical instructions to players. If you want, you can find my detailed opinion on that in the related podcast. In addition, FIFA announced that it will work on expanding the concussion awareness campaign related to head impacts. Recently, there were reports about an implementation to stop the match time. I don't find this logical. Fortunately, they haven't delved into this topic for now. I'm also waiting for your opinions on that below. In the meeting chaired by IFAB, FIFA, the English Football Association, the Scottish Football Association, and the Welsh Football Association, at the end of the day, all the decisions made in the meeting were as follows. I don't see anything negative. I find all the rules currently being implemented to be positive. As I mentioned, I have major reservations about the offside rule, and I also think that the challenge system, which we refer to as football video assistance, should not be introduced to top-level football. What do you think? You can discuss it in detail below, friends. I expect detailed and nice comments from all of you like Mertz. See you below. Don't forget to subscribe.